President Buhari inaugurates Lekki Deep Blue Sea. International flights shut down Monday morning as aviation handling company strikes. Cash withdrawal limit, banks set up systems for automatic debit. And on commodity watch, gold edges up on softer dollar. Fed slowdown hopes. This is Business Express on the network service of the NTA, and we are reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Musa Abubakar. Now let's begin the program with industrial action. Aviation workers under the aegis of the National Union of Air Transport Employees and Air Transport Services Senior Staff Association of Nigeria proceeded on an indefinite strike on Monday, January 23rd, 2023. NTA confirms that the international flights at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos on Monday morning were grounded as workers of the Nigerian Aviation Handling Company PLC embarked on the strike. In the notice of strike signed by the Deputy General Secretary of the Association, Francis Akinjole, and the General Secretary of Norti, Ochema Abba, dated January 16th, the leaders of the union stated that negotiations with NACO management for review of workers' salaries allegedly failed. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has reassured Nigerians that it has put in place mechanisms to ensure that no one is left behind in its monetary and financial policies, as the deadline for mopping up of the 3 old banknotes remains the 31st of January 2023. The Apex Bank made its position clear at a sensitization campaign in Damaturu, the Yobe state capital, as part of strategies to allay public fear on the issue of redesigned currency. Yunusa Suleiman reports.
Is insufficient. It is very scarce in the market. Even if you go to the bank now, as of 2 days ago, even if you go to the bank, they will still give you the old currency.
We have a lot of challenges because the deadline is almost has gone, and that at first is very close because we cannot make it actually.
Having taken note of all these challenges raised, the sensitization campaign was initiated by the Central Bank of Nigeria to further enlighten and encourage traders and other stakeholders in Yobe State on the best ways to deposit their old bank notes, as the deadline to do so remains the 31st of January 2023.
The federal government meant well and Central Bank meant well for the populace, more especially the peasant. That's why they introduced this cashless and redesigned currency.
People have been sensitized and they have accepted this new policy, and they are ready to go to the banks to deposit their money.
The Apex Bank at the sensitization also insisted that it has no plan to extend the deadline beyond 31st, thereby advises traders and other stakeholders to equally sensitize rural dwellers on the use of a variety of options in order to access financial services within the time frame. The introduction of the redesigned Naira notes has continued to dominate discussions in Nigeria, with many opposing the policy, even as the central bank maintains that the move is meant to add value to the nation's economy. In Damaturu, Yunusa Suleiman.
From Yobe, the sensitization continues in Lagos, where the Central Bank of Nigeria says no room for extension of deadline date will be accommodated. Deputy Director, Reserve Management Department, Mohammed Sholaja, reiterated this point at a sensitization visit to a mosque.
The enlightenment on the redesigned Naira notes by the Central Bank of Nigeria is not limited to stakeholders in the small and micro enterprise alone. The bank, in its quest to adequately convince Nigerians on the importance to make available the old naira in exchange for the redesigned notes before the deadline, took its message to Lagos Island Central Mosque, where faithful were urged to see the redesigned notes as means to address myriad of challenges. While emphasizing the readiness of the Apex Bank to make available the redesigned naira notes for deposit money banks, Deputy Director, Reserve Management, Mohammed Solaja, insists appropriate measures have been reached to prevent any form of inadequacy.
This redesign initiative of Central Bank is on. People should take advantage as much as possible to, assess this currency, new currency, and embrace it. The Central Bank of Nigeria, in its own wisdom, have agreed or have approved that by this, January 31st, the old note will become an illegal tender currency. That is to say, it's going to be phased out, and it's sacrosanct, as directed by the Governor of Central Bank of Nigeria. So, against the bank, we have decided to come and sensitize our people, and especially our Muslim brothers and sisters of the Lagos Central Mosque, that they should take advantage of the window.
Acknowledging the initiative of the Apex Bank as impressive, Muslim clerics, on the other hand, admonished CBN to encourage commercial banks to comply with the directive. In Lagos, Hinginu, John Adams.
Nigeria's fortune in the maritime industry is set to change from losing billions of naira annually to cargo diversion to generating close to $361 billion within the period of concession of the Lekki Deep Seaport. Michael Lale reports that this potential will be unlocked once President Muhammadu Buhari cuts the tape, signaling the commencement of commercial operations.
The evolution leading to the emergence of the Lekki Deep Sea Port could be described as a long walk to freedom, with many obstacles shaping and molding the path. This is a typical scenario synonymous with Apapa. It is a frustrating experience for truck drivers like Idowolu Damilare, who must endure for months just to gain access into the ports.
My wife gave birth on the 22nd of last month. I have never set my eyes on the baby, all because of the condition of this road.
Pathetic as it might sound, there are multiplier effects associated with the development, as yard occupancy translated into congestion and diversion of Nigerian-bound cargoes to neighboring countries. With 130 billion naira loss annually, the construction of the Lekki Deep Sea Port became a child of necessity. From 2020, when the project officially started, these 50 hectares of landmass covering the fourth phase of construction has been transformed.
This, like you know, should be the pride of all Nigerians. The first deep sea port in West Africa. Everything you want in a port is here.
The ability to handle large vessels, as experimented with the basin of Chinkwa 28, is boosted by the 16.5 meters draft and a turning cycle of 600 meters, which are unique to Lekki Deep Sea ports.
The capacity of phase 1 is 1.2 million. Basically, that is equivalent to the entire capacity in Lagos today. Phase 2 will take it to 2.7 million, which will actually exceed the entire capacity for the Nigerian port.
Lekki is being constructed intentionally to reduce human interference. The port, of course, naturally is going to have access control gates. It means that if you do not have any business in the port, you will not come in.
Estimated to create close to 170,000 jobs once operational, the reality presented by Lekki in terms of digitization of processes and prompt clearing of cargoes is exciting to key players.
It's a huge investment for the country, and definitely we will reap the fruits.
A very good thing that has happened to freight forwarders, because a lot of vessels will be coming in and they will have enough space to accommodate all of them.
While the first deep sea port in Nigeria awaits full operation, the surest bet here is that more are coming on board, and these has set a benchmark for their operationalization. In Lagos, Michael Olaleye.
And now to our discussion segment. Recent increase in tax waivers by the federal government has been debated by stakeholders in different sectors, where many have argued that tax waivers are putting strain on the country at a time when the economy needs all resources rather than resort to borrowing to meet budgetary spending. The Senate President Ahmed Lawal also recently urged government to review waivers and concessions already granted to corporate entities. We have Dr. Amos Sakaba, an investment economist, in the studio to talk about incentives and waivers and their importance to the economy. You're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, well, on one side, countries need to show up their revenues, and on the other side, they need to promote investment. But why give waivers and tax waivers and a holiday to investors when the World Bank is opposed to that?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think this is a very important issue to talk about, especially because of the growing misconceptions and misrepresentations. Tax waivers, incentives are generally given. Almost every country offers some form of incentives and tax waivers or tax holidays and waivers to investors. The aim of a tax waiver is to attract investors to choose your location. Let me start this way. Usually investors screen countries before deciding where to take their investments to. And they normally start with looking at the fundamental determinants, like access to market, raw materials, political stability, policy consistency, and all sorts of things. But after that first phase screening, they do the second screening, which is what are the requirements for investment entry into that country? What is the cost of doing business, cost of business entry and doing business in that country? And then what is this tax structure? And in what way will it support what they have? But more importantly, investors go to not only where they are invited, where they are supported to come in, especially in terms of entry. They also go through a fundamental risk, which needs to be de-risked. And that's what incentives is aimed at achieving. To say, look, we have challenges in the investment climate. We have structures that are not efficient, like infrastructure. So can we offer you something to encourage you to come and to encourage you to reinvest and to encourage you to expand in Nigeria? That's what every country is offering, even developed economies. And incentives are used to attract investments into priority sectors that that country has chosen to develop. And you can't achieve this if you don't, motivate, if you don't encourage, if you don't offer something to make up for the poor infrastructure, for the poor investment climate.
But why is the World Bank against that?
Sorry?
Why is the World Bank against that?
World Bank is looking at international trade and investment flows. And the World Bank is looking at the possibility of distortions or possibility of countries competing, tax competition among countries in an attempt to lure investors to their destination. But we are not at the same scale. Let's take a simple example of a hotel. If you open a hotel in Nigeria, you have to make provision for generators. You have to make provision for so many water system, everything. These things are taken for granted in other countries. And you want to attract investment into tourism. And you have these challenges where the investor is calculating how much it will cost him to set up, to put on the issue of generators, maintaining generators, even security you pay for. These are things that are taken for granted in other countries. So as a country like Nigeria that is struggling with these challenges of investment climate, it is only good and in the interest of the country to lure investors to those areas that we want development to take place. And besides, like I said, even in the United States, some state governments even offer citizenship to people who invest $500,000 in their country. So that tells you that incentives will continue to be relevant and will continue to support. But World Bank policies...
But besides that, which other way do you think we can lure investors besides the tax waiver?
Of course, tax waiver themselves are not what brings investors to be candid, but they are I've told you the second phase of consideration of where you locate your investment is where the cost of entry and the cost of doing business can allow you to make profit, because you are in business for profit anyway, and to encourage you to do that and to choose. Remember that every country is looking for the same investors. So you need to do something extra. You need to offer something. Of course, it can affect the tax board. I mean, you are taking tax burden off them to make up for the poor infrastructure, for the poor investment climate.
Okay. What about tax holidays?
Now, tax holiday is also given to, in fact, in Nigeria, the legal framework for tax holiday, which is the Industrial Development Act and NIPC Enabling Act and other legislation, including Finance Acts of 2019, 2020, and the current one. They all offer incentives in terms of tax holiday. Tax holiday is simply saying, look, for the first 3 years or 5 years that you are coming to Nigeria, let's allow you to plug back to reinvest this profit you are making. Instead of paying the whole 30% of the tax to government, keep this money in the first 3 years so that you can consolidate, you can stabilize, and you can also expand. This is a very effective tool of encouraging the investors who face challenges of doing business in any economy.
But has it really been working?
Very well. I will give examples.
Okay.
If you look at Dangote, Boa, Lafarge, all these cement companies, when they came, Dangote took Boko, if you remember, he took Ebese in Ogun State and Abuja. And Dangote was given pioneer status, which is tax holiday of 3 years, 5 years. And the idea is to encourage him to stabilize in the face of challenges of doing business. And he was able to do so. So initially, it will look as if Nigeria is losing revenue. For those 3 years or 5 years, he has not been paying tax. But immediately he started paying the tax, it is in billions. And that is what is, and not to talk of the multiplier effect of that investment in terms of employment, in terms of technology. Look at ABC, look at Boko. Some years ago, if you go to Boko Road, before you get to Boko, 100 kilometers, you see dust on the trees. Today, the technology is modernized. You don't see such environmental hazards on the way. So, encouraging investments through tax holiday is done by almost every country. In fact, in Nigeria, we give only 5 years. Other countries give up to 15 years. Okay. Even our neighboring countries.
Okay, that brings me to the issue of multiple taxation.
Yes.
It seems like Nigeria is actually battling with that issue as well. And how does that affect investment?
Yeah, that has been a big challenge, especially at the subnational level. At the subnational level, you have all manner of tax collection agencies, including area boys and illegal roadblocks, you know, that frustrate trade and investments in Nigeria. And there have been attempts on the part of federal government to do tax, harmonized tax boards. These consolidated tax boards where all the tax agencies in the states come with the federal to agree what should be charged by which agency or which level of government. And I think that will help. But very importantly, the burden of paying tax is best handled if there is efficiency in the management of the tax itself. If it is easier for people to pay tax, it becomes easier. And if you expand the tax net to bring in those that are outside the tax net into the tax net. I'll give you an example. SMEs in Nigeria. I'm not advocating for overtaxing SMEs, but I'm saying that SMEs in Nigeria today are not able to, are not in the tax net. Why? Because they are in the informal sector. So how can you formalize them? How do you bring them into the formal sector and capture them into your tax net so that they are able to pay tax when they stabilize after initial period of consolidation, which can be a tax holiday? And I've seen the bill on investment facilitation talking about that for starters, for SMEs, to have 3 years tax holiday, which is to help them stabilize and be able to pay tax. The story of incentive is a story of investing for future revenue and on a sustainable basis. There's no need putting burden on tax when people are not making the profit. What happened to the textiles in Kaduna and Lagos? Are they around to pay tax? They've all vanished because the conditions under which they operated was terrible. But today you use incentives to reduce the burden, to compensate for those challenges that businesses face.
Okay. Thank you very much. Amos Sakaba, Mr. Amos Sakaba, investment economist. Thank you for coming to share your thoughts with us.
My pleasure.
The Investments and Securities Bill has been described as a game changer that is capable of enabling the commodities trading ecosystem to thrive, thereby diversifying the nation's economy and provides the nation with foreign exchange. This was stated by the Managing Director of LFCE, Mr. Akin, while commenting on the ICB, which was recently passed by the House of Representatives. He stated that Nigeria is a commodities country, has a better part of the GDP by way of production comes from the commodities ecosystem, and urged that Senate to ensure swift concurrence on the bill. He disclosed that in a bid to further deepen the commodities trading ecosystem in Nigeria, stocks began the week slow, although they managed to log in marginal gains. At the close of the session, the all-share index inched up to 52,657.69 points. 143 million shares were traded in 4,078, valued at 1.7 billion naira. Equity capitalization closed the session at 28.681 trillion naira. FBN Holdings, Chams Holdings, and Guarantee Trust Holding Company dominated activities in terms of volume. Next is global markets.
Hello and welcome to the Global Markets Review. European markets started the new trading week on an uncertain note, with investors reassessing the economic outlook. The German DAX and French CAC were both flat, while the UK's FTSE advanced by 0.24%. Stocks were higher in Asia, but most markets were closed for the Lunar New Year holiday, with markets in Shanghai short for the whole week. However, Japan's Nikkei 225 added 1.1% to 26,906.04. The major indices in the US started the week in the red, largely because of worries that the economy may not be able to avoid a scarring recession. Now, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was lower by 0.07%. S&P 500 also depreciated by 0.16%, and the Nasdaq Composite was down 0.15%. In Africa, nearly all the markets were in green this Monday, with stocks like Namibia's overall index and South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40 topping the chart, while Kenya's Nairobi All Share was the relative underperformer as it depreciated by 0.29%. And that's Global Market Review. I am Neka Oko.
Well, that's it. This is where we end this episode of the program. Don't forget you can access all previous episodes on YouTube. Do join us again tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. I am Musa Abubakar. Have a nice day.